There's a moment that happens to a lot of people, and it's so ordinary that it feels almost silly to mention. You're not panicking, you're not in crisis, you're just checking. It's late, the house is quiet, and you open your banking app the way some people open social media. You scroll. You recognize every transaction. Nothing looks reckless, no big splurge, no emergency, no "what was I thinking" purchase. And still, the number at the top feels smaller than it should. You close the app, you set the phone down, and you tell yourself you'll get more serious next month. I used to think that empty bank accounts were created by big mistakes, the obvious ones: a car payment you can't afford, credit card debt you don't want to look at, a few bad months in a row. That kind of thing makes sense. It has a clear cause. But the older I got, the more I noticed a different pattern. The people around me who felt financially stuck weren't always making big mistakes. A lot of them were doing fine on paper. They were working, they were responsible, they were trying. And yet, money kept slipping through their hands like it had somewhere else to be. That's when I started paying attention to what I call the quiet habits, the ones that don't look like a problem because each one is small, the ones that don't trigger guilt because they feel reasonable, the coffee because you're rushing, the delivery because you're tired, the little upgrades and add-ons because they only cost a few dollars, the subscriptions because you'll use them eventually. None of these things are immoral. None of them make you a bad person. But money doesn't disappear in one dramatic moment most of the time. It disappears in tiny, forgettable decisions that feel too small to matter. There's a reason these habits are so powerful, and it's not because people are weak. It's because people are overloaded. We make hundreds of decisions every day: work decisions, social decisions, health decisions, family decisions. By the time you get home, your brain doesn't want more choices. It wants relief, convenience, something that feels simple. That's not laziness. That's a normal human response to being mentally tired. Psychologists call it decision fatigue. The more decisions you make, the more likely you are to choose whatever's easiest later. Not the best option, not the most aligned option, the easiest option. And money habits are built in the hours when you're not thinking clearly, after meetings, after traffic, after stress, when your brain is just looking for something that reduces friction. That's why so much spending doesn't even feel like spending anymore. It feels like removing a problem. You're paying to make the day smoother. You're paying to make yourself feel better. You're paying for time, energy, and emotional comfort. And again, none of that is wrong. The part that matters is the pattern. Because when a habit becomes automatic, it stops being a decision you notice. And when you don't notice decisions, you don't feel in control. I remember one stretch of my life where I was convinced my income was the problem. I kept thinking, if I just made an extra $1,000 a month, everything would calm down. I would save, I would invest, I would breathe. And maybe that's true for some people. But when I finally looked closely, what I found wasn't one big problem. It was dozens of small ones. Money was leaving in drips. 10 here, 12 there, 15 again tomorrow. It wasn't a hole in the bucket, it was a leak. And leaks are dangerous because they're quiet. The weird part is how invisible these leaks feel from the inside. A $9 subscription doesn't change your life. A $6 delivery fee doesn't feel like a financial decision. An extra $3 add-on doesn't register as spending. It registers as why not? But a life is built out of why not decisions. They collect, they stack, they become your normal. And here's something people don't like hearing, but it's true. A lot of spending isn't about the thing you bought. It's about the feeling you were trying to change. You weren't buying food, you were buying relief from cooking. You weren't buying a new gadget, you were buying a moment of excitement. You weren't buying a premium upgrade, you were buying the feeling of being taken care of. Spending is often emotional regulation disguised as a transaction. Once I started seeing it that way, it changed how I thought about money. I stopped asking, why can't I save? And started asking, what feeling am I trying to fix right now? That question didn't make me feel guilty. It made me feel honest. Because it's hard to build a financial life if you treat your spending like a moral failure.
Most people aren't trying to sabotage themselves, they're trying to get through the day. The turning point for me didn't come from a strict budget or a dramatic plan. It was smaller than that. I started testing one simple thing. When I wanted to buy something online, I left the tab open for a day. Not as punishment, not as discipline, just as an experiment. And what happened surprised me. Half the time, I forgot. The desire wasn't permanent. It was a spike. It was a mood. It was a moment. That was the first time I really understood something I had heard before but never felt. Wanting something and needing something are different experiences. Wanting is often emotional. Needing is often stable. If you give wanting a little time, it changes shape. Sometimes it fades. Sometimes it becomes clear it was never about the item at all. The next thing I noticed was that my spending was predictable. I spent more when I was tired. I spent more when I felt behind. I spent more when I was overwhelmed. That made sense. Those are the states where your brain is looking for an easy win, a quick reward, a small comfort. And once I saw that pattern, I stopped trying to fix spending with force. I started trying to design my environment so tired decisions were less expensive. I did small things that sounded almost too simple to count. I removed saved payment methods from a couple of apps. I turned off some notifications. I kept a few basic meals easy to make so I wasn't ordering out just because I couldn't think. I didn't try to become a different person. I just tried to make the default version of me less likely to leak money. What I want you to hear is that the goal isn't to never spend. That's not realistic, and it's not the point. The goal is to stop spending unconsciously. There's a difference between choosing something and drifting into it. Choosing feels calm. Drifting feels confusing. Most people who feel broke aren't choosing to be broke. They're drifting because nobody taught them how to slow down inside money decisions. And it's not your fault if you're drifting. Modern life is designed for it. Everything is one click away. Everything is smooth. Everything is made to feel painless. You don't hand over cash. You don't feel the weight. You just tap. And the pain of paying is delayed, so your brain treats it as less real. This is why so many people feel shocked when they finally look at their account. It didn't feel like spending because it didn't feel like payment. There's a quiet climax in this story, and it's not dramatic. It's the moment you realize your bank account isn't empty because you're irresponsible. It's empty because your habits are running faster than your awareness. And the good news is, awareness doesn't require perfection. It just requires honesty. If you want a practical way to start, not as a strict rule, but as a gentle experiment, try this. For 1 week, don't track everything. Just notice one category where money leaks without emotion. Maybe it's food delivery. Maybe it's subscriptions. Maybe it's small online purchases. Don't shame yourself. Just observe the pattern like you're studying a stranger. Then ask one calm question in the moment. What problem am I solving with this? Sometimes the answer will be simple. I'm hungry. Fine. Sometimes it will be deeper. I'm stressed. That's important information, because once you see the real problem, you can solve the real problem, not with money, but with a different kind of care. You can also try a second experiment that's almost boring, but it works. Create a small pause between impulse and purchase. Not a dramatic pause, a tiny one. 10 minutes, an hour, a day for bigger things. This isn't about control. It's about giving your future self a voice. Over time, something shifts. You don't feel like you're constantly cleaning up your own mess. You feel like you're steering. Not perfectly, not always, but more often than before. And that's what stability is. It's not a huge leap. It's fewer surprises. Slightly longer gaps between paychecks and panic. A little more breathing room. I think a lot of adults are carrying shame they don't deserve. They feel like they're behind because their bank account doesn't match their effort. And I get it. Effort should lead to progress. But money is strange. Money responds more to systems than to effort. It responds to defaults, to friction, to patterns. If your patterns leak, effort won't fix it. It will just exhaust you. The result you want isn't a perfect budget or a strict lifestyle. The result is calm clarity. It's being able to look at your spending and recognize yourself in it. Not with judgment, with understanding. Because when you understand yourself, you can build systems that fit you. And when your systems fit you, saving stops feeling like a personality test you keep failing. So, if you're the kind of person who checks your account late at night and feels confused about where it all went, I want you to take one deep breath and hear this clearly. You're not broken. You're not uniquely bad at money. You're just human in a world that monetizes convenience, stress, and distraction. And the moment you start noticing the quiet habits, gently, honestly, without turning it into a self-attack, that's the moment you start getting your money back. Not all at once, not dramatically, but steadily, in the way that real stability usually happens, quietly.